Many know about the Buena Vista Social Club, the famed collective of legendary artists. But did you know that the Buena Vista Social Club was an actual social club for Afro-Cubans created because they were excluded from the Sociedades de Blancos, or the white societies? These social clubs came out of the cabildos, which these cabildos were for Afro-Cubans. It was a mechanism of the state to control and survey Black Cubans. Cabildos de Nación, or councils of nations, were formal African associations created in Cuba in the late 16th century. Membership in these councils were determined by one's nation or ethnicity, such as Yoruba, Congo, Carabali, and others. These were based on the Spanish cofradías, brotherhoods or guilds that were organized in Seville for the first time around the 14th century to organize and control Seville's Black and mulatto population, which Spanish authorities deemed as an administrative problem. The cabildos were a type of mutual aid society and were explicitly intended as an instrument of social control with the goal to assimilate and acculturate Afro-descendants after the death of their African parents, in effect Hispanicizing them to become subjects of Spain and the Catholic Church. The Africans in Cuba also converged patterns of their own West African secret societies in these cabildos. The cabildos were viewed as a distraction for the very large subordinated caste and was used to divide Africans and Afro-descendants from Cuban whites. These cabildos, however, were also used as sites of fundraising, organizing, and revolt, such as the 1812 Aponte conspiracy, where Jose Aponte, the captain of the Yoruba cabildo Shango Tedum in Havana, planned an uprising and organized an alliance that included cabildos that were Mandinga, Carabali, Ashanti, Bakongo, and Mina. These cabildos over time did not maintain strict ethnic lines and became a source of fellowship for Afro-Cubans, which was a threat to the state, whose goal was to assimilate Afro-descendants into Spanish-based identities. The Buena Vista Social Club was a members-only social club founded in 1932 in a small wooden venue in Marianao, Havana. At the Buena Vista Social Club, musicians went there to hang out with one another, and they'd have dances and activities. These social clubs launched the careers of many legendary Afro-Cuban artists. There were many other Black societies, such as Marianao Social Club, Unión Fraternal, and the elitist Club Atenas, whose members included doctors and engineers, the talented 10, so to speak. Curiously, the architect for the Club Atenas, Afro-Cuban Luis Delfin, acquired his degree at the HBCU Tuskegee University. In many of these Black social clubs, only certain European musical styles were allowed, such as the waltz, the foxtrot, polka, and boleros. This was the condition imposed by the whites to open these Black social clubs, once again a state ploy for Hispanic assimilation and African erasure. Meanwhile, in white clubs, the whites listened to Afro-Cuban rumbas, son, and other Black musical styles. Black societies and social clubs were formed as a decision by the Spanish government at the end of the 1890s to discourage Black participation in the independence wars and to make Afro-Cubans believe they were part of the nation. Although most of the Cuban military and those responsible for facilitating Cuba's freedom from Spain were Black Cubans, the Mambises. This was after the Spanish government had outlawed Africans born in Cuba from joining the cabildos of their parents, Africans born in Africa, in 1868. Nevertheless, by 1885, leaders of the Afro-Cuban societies formed an umbrella organization called the Central Directory of Colored Races. By 1892, 65 Afro-Cuban mutual aid societies existed throughout the island. And by 1961, they were outlawed, under the ridiculous claim that the revolution would resolve racism, an age-old notion that nationalism somehow cures racism. It hasn't and doesn't.
In Cuba in 1961, when this new regime came in, they said they eradicated racism. And you know what they did? They got rid of 200 Black organizations across the island. So they outlawed Black organizations. They outlawed associating and organizing across racial lines because they said they eradicated racism. So can you imagine the United States, if after the Civil Rights Movement, we got rid of all Black organizations, we got rid of the Black church, because in Cuba, you weren't allowed to organize across religious lines either. So this is the issues that we're missing. These are the conversations that we're missing, that Cuba, the rhetoric of Cuba being a Black power aligned country, is a part of an old discourse that belongs in 1960s, not in 2021. Because guess what? In Cuba, Black history can't be taught in schools. So the debates we're having about CRT in the United States, guess what? We can't teach CRT in Cuba. It's against the government.
Stay tuned for parts 2 and 3 on Afro-Cuban social clubs and cabildos.